Hola bebés, I am Alexandra Tovar if you have never listened to one of the episodes, and as you are here, today we're gonna find out where do you fall in emotional intelligence. In fact, tengo unas cuantas preguntas. I have some little questions for you. Are you tired, of people not understanding your feelings? Or to put energy in situations that drain you? Or maybe you don't know how to control your emotions, or maybe you think you're too emotional. Anyway, hello, bebés. Welcome to the Valiosa podcast, your favorite no gender subgroup podcast, and also my really own and personal journal. So keep tuned for my darkest secrets. Let's begin with the definition of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the capacity to manage and to understand your feelings, your intentions, your motivations, your emotions, fears, and desires. And it goes the same for other people. It's your capacity to identify those kind of things for other people. I believe that definitions are really helpful to understand a concept. And here we're talking about intelligence and also emotion. So, what are those? Let's define them. Intelligence means that you have the capacity to understand, learn, and adapt yourself to satisfy your needs. So, bebe, I'm gonna repeat this part. Intelligence is to understand, learn, and adapt yourself to satisfy your needs, and also to modify your environment to satisfy your needs. On the emotional part, emotions means that you have a reaction that is physiological to an experience. It can be physical or it can be mental, and it's also not conscious. In fact, emotions reside and live in the amygdala. The amygdala is a part of the brain that it's in charge to fight when you feel threatened, to protect yourself. Maybe you have heard of the example, you see a lion and then you run. Well, that's your amygdala protecting yourself. In contrast to emotions, we have feelings, and people have this tendency to mix up emotion and feeling. They're not the same. A feeling is the meaning we attach to an emotion, and that is conscious, and that is shaped by personal experience, memories, belief, etc., and that express our internal states. Feelings live in the neurocortex and they are in charge of cognitive interpretation. Ahora, why do you want to be emotional intelligent? Like, what is the main goal of being here? The objective of emotional intelligence is to properly manage your emotions, is to respond properly to situations, to be responsible for your own well-being. And there's something that I wanted to abord, which is called dysregulation. Dysregulations happen when you don't have the capacity to manage your emotions or to keep them in a range that is regulated. And this is why, baby, you have a hard time controlling your emotions, because you get to those behaviors that can have no sense at all. In fact, the thing is that you are creating cognitive disorders. And let me know if you identify with the followings. When you don't know how to control your emotions, maybe you're suffering from polarization, which is that you go to an extreme pole and there's nothing in between. Or maybe you're catastrophizing, like you think everything is gonna lead to a disaster, to a deception. Or maybe you're personalizing, which means that you think that everything that happens wrongly in your life and others' life is your fault. In fact, this is due to trauma. And the thing is that when you were a children, a baby, you didn't know how to deal with your emotions. And this is why you create channels where you push your emotions aside or you don't deal with them. And at the end of the day, what happens is that this damages your limbic system. And this creates cognitive disorders and mood disorders that I just mentioned, which is a result of emotional self-damage. Now let's see if you have low emotional intelligence or if you know somebody that has low emotional intelligence. A person that has low emotional intelligence will never be sorry because they're gonna blame you for the way that they make you feel. Because there's a part of responsibility that goes towards them, but they will never be, or they're not willing to take accountability for that part. They do feel shame and they do feel guilt, but they're never gonna say sorry. Like, it's really hard for them. You will see that they have this tendency to rely on others to be happy. And the thing that I want you to understand here is that they are not doing that because they want to hurt you, but mostly because they want to defend themselves. Here we have the amygdala like in a state of like craziness, because the thing is that they want to protect themselves, because maybe you give them a comment or you say something that triggers an emotion in them, and this is why instead of trying to recognize and understand why did they hurt you, they're gonna try to justify their actions. And when you feel a danger, you want to attack. So this is why they hurt you. Sometimes this can be conscious or not conscious, but at the end of the day, they do hurt you, baby. Bueno, bebé, now let's talk about the manual to be emotionally intelligent, because the first thing you need to do is to start identifying your emotions and your feelings. The brain sometimes is just a little bit fucked up, and this is why you need to develop your self-awareness. In fact, how do you identify an emotions? Well, how does every emotion feel and looks like to you? You can pay attention to your physical reactions, like maybe some facial expressions, like body reactions, maybe the heartbeat, like do you have a heaviness in the heart, temperature, etc., etc. And we have 6 main basic emotions that are happiness, disgust, anger, sadness, fear, and surprise. So every time you feel an emotion, try to categorize that emotion in one of the followings that I just said, right? But remember that emotions hide each other. So there are many, many emotions that you can experience. Now that you have identified your emotion, then you can go and put a meaning to that emotion. So to identify their feeling. Example, when I broke up with my ex, I remember that I felt lethargic, I didn't smile, I cried, etc., etc. Those were my reactions to the emotion that was sadness. I was experiencing sadness. And the meaning of this whole experience for me was that this made me feel like I was lonely and that I didn't have anymore a space where I felt secure, because my safe place, that was him, left. So in order to identify your feelings, you need to understand that you have to let your emotions take place, because in this way you can really understand the main why you are feeling a certain way. So baby, you're listening to the Valiosa podcast. And remember, you can follow the Valiosa podcast on Instagram and also me at Alex Toar. I also have an account of poems that you can go and check, which is called Rising Epic. Anyway, on step number 3, we're going to have, of the manual of how to be emotionally intelligent. We need to decide what we're going to be doing with those emotions and those feelings. In fact, here you need to understand that you are responsible of your actions, your thoughts, and your speech, because those are the only things that you really can control in life. When you're going to be encountering challenging situations, like, you have to fight against those impulsive reactions according to the situation. Remember, we want to retransform and reconstruct the channels that made you have some cognitive disorders, like the ones we mentioned before, like polarization or like personalizing, etc. In addition, something that you want to be thinking about in this step, is that you need to declutter your mind from toxic situations, people, and habits. Let's take an example. Imagine that you're having a discussion with your best friend and they're trying to let you know that your idea is really bad and you shouldn't be doing that. And you see, you try to explain your point of view to this friend, but that person is just not capable to understand you, and you understand that they will never respect your idea. So this causes you to have like a heaviness in the heart, and this constant pain, maybe emotional anxiety. It makes you feel like you're not understood. Well, the best thing that you can do here is to say, thank you, I will consider if that works for me. And that's it. Because here we're gonna, protect your mental health, and we're going to be creating new channels so you can be more emotional intelligent. You cannot control their actions, their thoughts, their speech. So we're not going to be putting efforts and energy into changing this person's actions, thoughts, and speech. It's not going to be working. You see, you're going to be getting, comfortable managing change and flexibility. And think about this. All emotions are healthy. They are just not comfortable. I understand you. O sea, emotions leads us to the best outcome, and I truly believe this because it pushes you to change your main situation and to act, to experience back again the comfortable emotions that you had before. When you experience pain, it's because you care. It's because it's affecting you and you need to find a solution in order to be okay. So, mi amor, uncomfortable emotions make you grow mentally if you know how to manage them. So allow your vulnerability to take place. It's a sense of self-awareness, mindfulness, health. So baby, I can keep going on this one, but remember, okay, let your emotions take place. Even if they are not fun, they're gonna make you grow. Well, this brought me to step 4, which is motivation. And do you remember the definition of intelligence? When you are intelligent, you have this capacity to understand, learn, and also to adapt yourself so you can satisfy your needs. It's the same thing here in motivations. We have motivations because we want to modify our behaviors to be objective and to adapt ourselves to back again satisfy our needs. So motivations is, that forces that shapes our comportment. As an example, let's go back to the story of my breakup, right? So do you remember that I didn't feel safe with my partner because they were physically and emotionally not there anymore, like we're not together anymore? And what can I do to satisfy my need of security? Because now I have to rely on myself to do the things that make me feel safe. And I had to find solutions for this situation so I could feel safe. And I remember I went to the psychotherapist the other day, and she gave me this tip: use your 5 senses to ensure, like, to create that security. So as an example, I love to drink peppermint tea. That makes me feel safe. I love to listen to lofi music. Makes me feel safe. Do yoga, meditation, etc. And what is the thing that you can touch that makes you feel safe? Maybe it's your cat, maybe it's a blanket, etc., etc. And that was it for the motivation. Now on the next step, which is empathy. On empathy, we're gonna be recognizing emotions and feelings from others without interiorizing them and without applying them to us, because you don't want to assume what others are feeling and going through, because you're literally not in their shoes. So you cannot do that. Like, psychologically, it's not possible. Anyway, being empathic for you is a form of healthy narcissism. It's a form of healthy regulation, because when you try to understand others' needs and others' feelings and emotions, you can then understand your own. Another benefit of being empathic is that you're going to protect yourself from emotional damage, because now you have the capacity to recognize destructive persons from away. You will start to recognize people that are not emotionally intelligent, and baby, it's not going to be sexy to you anymore. It's not going to be, trust me. Another advantage of emotional AE and empathy is that you will stop entering this game of powers in relationship. Sometimes we think that we have the reason, but listen, baby, the thing is that we all have reasons. So this is why empathy is so important, because it's about acknowledging the emotions and feelings of the others and then find a solution. This is where you put your ego aside. This is where you said to your partner, look, I feel like you don't spend enough time with me. And the other person, instead of telling you like, oh my God, I just spent the whole day with you, they're going to care enough about you and your feelings and how you're living the situation to explore what is your real need behind that demand. Maybe at the end of the day, what you really wanted them to understand is that you feel love when the person is looking at you when you're talking, or when the person is having conversations with you. And that is why you're claiming them back some time. In that case, here the other person that is emotional, intelligent, available, and responsible, they're going to be apologizing for their part of responsibility and their role they play in your life, because that is more important than their ego, and that is more important than trying to defend themselves because they think that you are trying to, hurt them, to attack them. Isi bebé, talking about empathy made me think about the fact that people think that sometimes when you are trying to explain yourself, to express your feelings or emotions, you're acting as a victim. But the thing is that you need to solve that trauma so you can reconstruct the channels. This is why people talk and retalk and retalk and retalk about their situation. So, bebé, be a little bit patient with them. Be a little bit indulgent and loving with them. So the first step to emotional intelligence is to identify your feelings and to identify your emotions. So that is because sometimes people that are trying to explain their emotions are shut down, and that is not good for them, and that is not good for you, baby. Like, if you are in that situation, don't listen to their advice, but listen to this. Not everybody has the capacity to listen to you. So be ready for rejection, because rejection is a redirection. Something that you can do before talking to somebody about your emotion is to tell them, look, I need you to understand my situation. I need you to give me an advice. I need you just to listen to me. That's it. And the same thing goes for the person that is listening to you. They can ask, hey, how can I help you? What can I do in order to help you? Do you want me to listen to you? Do you want me to give you a hug? Whatever. Because depending on the situation, you have to see where are these people on the step of the manual. Are they in step 1, recognizing emotion, or are they in step 3, like trying to find solutions and motivations to change their situation? En conclusión, a person that has a really high emotional intelligence means that they have this capacity to self-regulate their emotions according to the situation. And something that I didn't mention before, it's that they are capable to put boundaries too. Imagine that you have a partner, un tóxico or una tóxica, and you want them to text you before midnight because that gives you security, but they'll never do, or they do once in a while. Then you will see if they care about you enough to respect that boundary. And if they don't, it's up to you to now make that boundary be respected, and that is where you take action. As we have seen, a person that has high emotional AE has this capacity to put their ego aside, to put their pride aside. They also have this responsibility against others, so they take accountability when they made people feel a certain way, because they know that everybody perceives emotions, feelings, and situations differently. Bueno, mi amor, we're finally at the end of the episode. We just wrap it up. I hope you love it as much as I did. I know this episode was more like a kind of informative, kind of thing. Remember, you can follow the Valiosa podcast on Instagram and also me at Alex Tovar. You are Valiosa, bebé. Y nos vemos en el próximo episodio, aka see you on the next episode.